Major NASCAR silly season bombs dropped this morning. Matt DiBenedetto is out of a ride and he does not sound happy about it. And there will be at least 2 rookies competing in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2022. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. It has been a busy week and I woke up to some busy headlines this morning. We're gonna react to all of the major news stories from today in just a moment, but before we get to all of that, if you're not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future Out of the Groove episodes. If this week is any indication, the summer is about to heat up in a big way. Rumors everywhere, announcements almost daily, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the big NASCAR news this summer. We've got 2 huge NASCAR silly season stories to react to today. Let's begin with the least surprising one. This morning, Team Penske confirmed that Austin Cindric will take over the 2-car full-time next season. That's right, the defending NASCAR Xfinity Series champion will be a NASCAR Cup Series rookie next season. He's made a few starts this year in the Cup Series in that 33 car, but next year officially will be his rookie season in the 2-car, which yes, does confirm that Brad Keselowski will not be a part of Team Penske after this season. Perhaps the worst kept secret in the NASCAR garage this year. It still has not been announced, but everyone knows at this point that Brad Keselowski will be moving over to Roush Fenway Racing this offseason, not just as a driver, but also as a team owner. Roush Fenway Keselowski, RFK Racing, get ready for it. It is happening. We're just waiting on an official announcement at this point. Now, you'll remember last year it was reported that Austin Cindric would go Cup Series racing in 2022, but at the time, he was expected to race for the Wood brothers, the 21 car, because at the time, Penske, I think, hoped that Keselowski would stay. He's a championship driver, a veteran. I think they wanted him to stay. But early this year, as it became clear that Keselowski was not going to stay with Penske and that 2-car was going to be open, it made a ton of sense for Team Penske to put Cindric in that 2-car. You know, his father, Tim Cindric, I've said before, is the president of Team Penske, so keeping Austin Cindric directly in-house, I know the Wood brothers are a very closely aligned Penske affiliate, but keeping Austin Cindric in a Penske labeled car was probably always their preferred option. So the moment the 2 became available, I think Austin Cindric was clearly the leading candidate to land that ride. Now it's official. We'll see Austin Cindric in the 2 next season. We've kind of been predicting this for a while, but I think it's a good move. I mean, Austin Cindric is the defending Xfinity champion and he's arguably the front runner for this year's Xfinity championship. So I think he's deserving of a full-time Cup Series opportunity. He's run okay at times in some of his one-off Cup starts this year, namely the road courses. He's led laps at like Coda, and I think he even led laps at Road America, or he led a couple. He's run with the big boys, especially at the road courses. He has not finished those races every time. He's had issues come up and that have hurt his finishing position, but I think Austin Cindric, compared to 3 or 4 years ago, he now has, I think, the poise necessary to be successful in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's probably going to struggle a little bit next year, as most rookies have done in recent years. You know, we probably won't see him inside the top 10 very often, but I think by the end of next year, we'll see serious improvement out of Cindric, and I think this is a good time with a new car and everything to bring one of your hottest young drivers up into the top level of NASCAR. So I think it's a good decision for Penske, and I'm hoping Austin Cindric does well next year. I think he'll be better than many rookies in recent years have been. Too early to say playoffs or race wins or not, but I think he should contend for a playoff spot and he should contend for a win or 2 next season. That's just my early prediction. Now the bigger story today, or at least the more surprising story if you ask me, kind of sort of still involves Penske. It's about the Wood brothers. Matt DiBenedetto will not race for the Wood brothers next season. He posted a video to Facebook we'll look at in a moment, but it sounds like he didn't find out about this until yesterday. So the last 24 hours have to have been quite the whirlwind for Matt DiBenedetto. Instead, driving the 21 car next season will be Harrison Burton, the 20-year-old Xfinity Series driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, the son of Jeff Burton, the mayor. He will be going full-time Cup Series racing next year, not for Toyota. He is leaving the Toyota system, leaving Joe Gibbs Racing, and will join one of NASCAR's most historic organizations, a Ford organization, the Wood brothers, in what I believe is kind of a surprising maneuver. I mean, all we'd heard is that the Wood brothers had an option on Matt DiBenedetto to keep him around for another year, and with the new car, more road courses, I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought they would keep Matt DiBenedetto to keep some stability going into next season, but nope. The Wood brothers changed their minds. Now let's talk about Harrison Burton for a moment. I like Harrison Burton a lot. He was one of the first drivers I actually ever got on Out of the Groove on this show. So he's a good dude. He's 20 years old now. I believe he'll be 21 by the time next year starts. So he'll automatically be one of the, if not the youngest drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series. I'll have to double check that, but he's going to be really, really young next year. And if you ask me, that's really the only thing I think working against him. Because if you ask me, Harrison Burton has the emotional and mental toughness it takes to drive in the NASCAR Cup Series. He doesn't seem like a hothead who's going to be, in over his skis, wrecking people or wrecking his own car over and over again. I think when it comes to the mental side of things, he is ready for the NASCAR Cup Series. He's got a great mentor in Jeff Burton, who's done it and seen it all. But I think it's his lack of experience that will work against him. He's in his second full-time season of Xfinity Series action. He won 4 races last year. Last year in 2020, Harrison Burton was one of the most impressive drivers in the Xfinity Series, in my opinion. Sure, he didn't make it to the championship 4. He didn't contend really with Cindric or Briscoe for the series championship, but 4 wins at like 19 years old, his first year in Gibbs equipment with no practice or qualifying. I was impressed. This year has been a small step backwards in my opinion. He's been pretty consistent. I think he's 5th in the overall Xfinity Series point standings, which is not bad, but he's winless so far in 2021. And that is, in my opinion, a pretty severe step backwards from 2020. I think Harrison Burton is a good driver, but the number one reason I think he's getting this ride over Matt DiBenedetto is because Burton does bring some funding, namely from Dex Imaging. We've seen those red and white cars on track for several years now. They are longtime supporters of Harrison Burton, and it sounds like they are coming with him into the NASCAR Cup Series. And it might make sense because they also sponsor Ryan Blaney occasionally, and so that's a Penske affiliated car with the Wood brothers. So now all the Dex stuff is Penske Fords, basically. But while I don't necessarily think Harrison Burton has the most experience in the world, I don't think he's 100% Cup Series ready in that department yet, I can't say he's that much worse than Matt DiBenedetto. Matt DiBenedetto has really done nothing but disappoint since he got behind the wheel of that 21 car. This is the same guy that ran 6th in a BK racing car at Bristol a few years ago. It's the same guy that nearly won at Bristol 2 years ago in Levine family racing equipment. He had some great road course runs back in the day as well, but since getting to the Wood brothers, yes, he made the playoffs last year by the slimmest of margins, but between last year and this year, I just have not seen the tenacity out of Matt DiBenedetto that I was hoping I'd see. I was hoping he would have a win by now. We're more than a year and a half into his Team Penske career, and he is still winless. They were struggling so badly at the beginning of this season that they even changed crew chiefs just a few weeks ago, bringing Jonathan Hassler in to replace Greg Irwin. Matt DiBenedetto's average finish last year was 14.8, which no practice, no qualifying, new team, I thought was decent, all things considered. This year, his average finish is more than 18. And they're also sitting 18th in points right now with no chance to point their way into the playoffs. They need a win here in these final few races. So Matt DiBenedetto has not been bad. He has not been bad in the 21 car, but he has not been good either. And he's had many circumstances beyond his control, hurt their performance, hurt their finishes at several racetracks. But at the end of the day, Matt DiBenedetto has not been as good as I hoped he would be in the 21 car. I do think right now he's a little bit better driver than Harrison Burton, but Harrison Burton is like 7-8 years younger than Matt DiBenedetto and has the ability to surpass Matt DiBenedetto in a few years. And I think Harrison Burton could one day be a very solid NASCAR Cup Series driver. I don't know that I ever see him contending with Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott for the next 10-15 years for championships. I don't know if Burton ever gets that far, but I think Harrison Burton has the ability to be a very solid playoff driver within the next few years. So when you factor in the fact that Burton I don't think is going to run that much worse next year than DiBenedetto is running this year, and you factor in the fact that Burton has some funding and DiBenedetto has almost no sponsorship that I know of, it's not hard to see why the Wood brothers chose to go with Harrison Burton. But that doesn't mean Matt DiBenedetto doesn't have the right to be a bit frustrated. So he posted a video to Facebook this morning, and it sounds like at the center of everything, Matt DiBenedetto is frustrated that the Wood brothers wasted so much time, in his opinion.
So I'm just going to go right into it, and I'm going to be real with you guys, and I'm going to be super honest. I'm not going to try and hide how I feel and what I feel. You guys know what you see is what you get. Yeah, found out yesterday. And when I found out, I tried to be like, okay, I've been through this before. How do I handle this? I know God has a plan for me. I know there's a greater plan. But you know what? I didn't really sleep well last night, and I thought about it and woke up this morning, and You know, it's okay to have human emotion, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's okay to be pissed off, angry, and bitter, and all the above. It just is what it is. We're humans. We're not perfect. Why would I have these emotions? Because I was so freaking lucky, and still am, to be driving the 21 car. Love it. But this 21 team's also been broken for a while. And you try to give the benefit of the doubt and work through it, put all your effort into it, try and make it, work and make it click. And it wasn't. And I've said it for a long time. Our team wasn't clicking. That's no disrespect to anyone, no particular person. It just wasn't working. Your biggest regret ever in life will be wasting time. Time is the one thing you can't get back in life. And you know what? That's kind of what's biting me right now. Is we wasted some time, and I'll take some of the blame for it. It's not just one particular person, not putting blame on anybody.
So he says it in that video, but he feels like recently, since the crew chief change a few weeks ago, that the team has gotten to a better place. He feels like the communication is better. The results have been a little better. He's coming off back-to-back top 10s at Road America and last weekend at Atlanta. So DiBenedetto feels like they're shutting this thing down right as it's finally getting started. So I understand his frustration. DiBenedetto's a driver who's never had much stability in his NASCAR career. He's kind of always looking for that next opportunity. That's just, he's been forced into that situation so many times. So I do feel bad for Matt DiBenedetto. Again, his performance has not been poor the last season and a half. It just has not been as good as pretty much everyone expected it to be. I think we all thought he'd have a win by now, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I think we all assume Matt DiBenedetto would have a win by now, and he doesn't. Now my attention turns to, where does Matt DiBenedetto go from here? Because there's no clear options on the table. And it gets tougher because when you think of it this way, Austin Cindric, Harrison Burton are coming up. They're basically taking 2 competitive rides away from other drivers for next season. So guys like Ryan Newman, who are probably without a ride currently for next season, other veterans like Matt DiBenedetto, I don't know where they're going to land. I really have no guesses as to where Matt DiBenedetto could end up. There's been some wacky and crazy rumors we sort of addressed yesterday that, maybe Kevin Harvick is considering retiring and heading to the booth, or might buy JTG Doherty Racing. There's a ton of rumors out there. If Harvick retires, maybe there's a spot DiBenedetto can land, but I don't know if he'd be my first pick for that seat. I have no idea. Maybe a new team like GMS or even Trackhouse ends up making Matt DiBenedetto an offer. Maybe that becomes a viable option for him. Or he goes the Daniel Hemrick route and maybe lands a competitive Xfinity ride next season. I have no idea. That's probably what makes this even more frustrating for Matt DiBenedetto, because he probably doesn't have any idea at this point. I think for the last couple months, he felt at least somewhat confident that the Wood brothers would extend him for another season, and in the last 24 hours, things have completely changed. So I understand his frustration, and man, I don't know where Matt DiBenedetto goes next year. Leave a comment down below. Give me your predictions. One last thing that I accidentally glossed over, but I want to talk about a little bit more. Lost in all of this is the fact that Toyota is losing yet another prospect. This has become a huge trend and has even been criticized by guys like Tony Stewart in recent years. Toyota will work with promising teenagers. They'll get them ARCA, K&N rides. They'll get them into KBM and trucks, move them up to Xfinity, and then some point along the way, some point in that pipeline, they'll lose out to another manufacturer. And this has happened so many times. William Byron drove for KBM. Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, they didn't keep those guys around. Haley Deegan was a Toyota driver. Noah Gragson was in KBM equipment at one point. Going back even earlier, Joey Logano left Joe Gibbs Racing, joined Team Penske, and his career took off. So Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing, all of them affiliated, have had to let some really talented young drivers walk away in recent years because they just didn't have the space for them. Sounds like Harrison Burton had some funding. He's not married to Toyota. It's not like the Burton family is like a famous Toyota racing family. Absolutely not. He had the money and the desire to go Cup Series racing, and Toyota did not have a seat for him. Toyota has a pretty stacked Cup Series roster. Let's be honest. Kyle Busch, Truex, Hamlin, Bubba Bell. That's a pretty solid roster. But if you look at all the talent they've had to let go in recent years, the names I just mentioned, that's a pretty good roster as well. So Toyota losing another prospect. At the same time, though, they are making room, you could say, for perhaps the hottest prospect in NASCAR today. This frees up Ty Gibbs to run full-time Xfinity next year. This should free up a whole seat, a whole car for him to go full-time next year. That's going to be fun to watch. Of course, that hasn't been announced, but I think it's safe to say Ty Gibbs is looking at a full-time Xfinity gig next year, and that I cannot wait to see. But there you have it. Those are the big stories today. Austin Cindric taking over the 2-car. Matt DiBenedetto out at the Wood brothers looking for new opportunities next season. Harrison Burton stepping into it. Wow, did not really expect that. He did make a Cup Series start earlier this year at Talladega, so, he's been testing those waters recently, but still excited for Harrison Burton. I hope he does well next year. I think he'll do well. I don't think he'll be as good as DiBenedetto right away, but give him a little bit of time. I think he can become as good or even better than Matt DiBenedetto before too long. Again, the kid, emotionally and mentally, I think is locked in. I think he has what it takes to be a Cup Series driver. The experience just has to catch up a little bit, and I think there's a chance that it will. Anyway, y'all, that's all I've got to talk about in today's episode. Thanks for watching. Again, leave a comment down below. Give me your thoughts on this trade-off. Not really a trade, because DiBenedetto's not going back to Toyota. At least not yet. Maybe that gets announced. But let me know what you guys think of all these silly season moves. As always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I couldn't do this show without your tremendous support. Busy week. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. I might have another video up before New Hampshire. I had some other things I kind of wanted to talk about this week, but so much news has kind of pushed everything to the side. We'll see. I'll see y'all in the next video regardless. Thank you all so much for watching.